Welcome, everyone. It's not going to be just myself. We've also got two other guys coming on, Arthur and another guy, Ping Yang. They're just running a bit late, but I was kind of scheduled just to do the first hour with you anyway, so that works out fine. Now, I've been using Rhino for at least 8 years. I use it in construction. I work for electrical contractors, and I use it whenever I can. I use other software too. I use Autodesk Fabrication and Revit as well, but I prefer. I do like using Rhino, and I tend to use it whenever I can. Now, I'm going to do something different from what we did last year. Now, this particular example is found in the McNeil manual under the level 2. Okay, McNeil, the developer of Rhino, they've produced 2 manuals. Okay, there are 2 courses that they've written, and this particular example is found in the very first pages of the level 2, and it's kind of presented to the class as something. There are no instructions that come with it. And it kind of like, it's quite testing really, because it kind of, you need to have at least kind of like have the essential knowledge of Rhino, plus, some kind of experience of it too. So they ask, they say that you need at least kind of like been using Rhino for say sort of like 4 to 8 weeks, depending on your past experience really, what other CAD software perhaps you've used. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through, and we can discuss, the method that we can use to build this particular object. Now, note there on the sheet that I've given you, look, it says that use the dimensions as guides only. Okay, we're not going to really have enough time to really to get this really right. So, just focusing on that really, dimensions as a guide. In fact, the only dimensions I'm really going to use is really just the kind of 135 here and the 96. Okay, just the width and the length of the object. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, right? There are kind of 2 kind of main ways that we model with Rhino. That's either taking a solid, making changes to the solid, or we build the object from curves. Now, this particular example, well, it's a kind of combination of both of those, of course, because we've got a sphere here, so that's quite obvious. We're going to use the solid sphere tool in Rhino. But the remaining part of the object, that's going to be built with curves, and then using our surface creation commands on those curves. So let's start. Okay, if we all just, I'm sure you've all got Rhino open. Yeah. So I'm just going to, if I click on the new here, I'm going to open up a template, small objects millimeters. And now I'm going to save that template. I'll just save it to my desktop, and I'm just going to call it trackball. And press save. Okay. Okay. Now, before we tackle this, let me just... You're right, you want a sheet? Okay. Could I have one too? Thanks. Okay. Now, I just wanted to mention this particular method. I don't want you particularly to do this, but just watch me just for a moment here, because what we could possibly do is to actually use this image here. We can cut and paste this image to the actual seaplanes, and we can use that as an image to kind of as a guide. Yeah? So I've just got the snippet tool down here, and if I click on the snippet tool, I could window select here, and if I just say File, Save As, and I just save it to my desktop and click Save, I'll just leave it as that's a PNG file. Now, if I come back into Rhino, what I can do is if I type in, anyone, what's the command for inserting an object onto a seaplane? Anyone?
Sir.
Sorry?
Sir.
Picture frame. Yeah? You know picture frame? If I type in PIC, there's the autocomplete, so I see the word picture frame appear. I press enter. It's asking me to open a bitmap, so I'm going to browse to my desktop location. I'm going to go to Capture, Open. It's asking me, look in bold here, first corner of picture frame, and I make 2 left clicks. Okay, so placing the object on the seaplane. Okay. Next thing I want to do, of course, would be to get the scale right. Yeah, I've got a dimension here of 135, so I could use Rhino's transform scale 2D. Select the object, press enter, origin point, I come over to the end of this dimension here, then the other end, hold down my shift key for the ortho. What I'm using actually is it's called reference point 2D scaling. It's asking me in the command line for a second reference point. I type in 135, I press enter. So I now have made that object to scale of 1 to 1. Okay, so it's the real size. Okay. Now I could use those. What I could do, perhaps, is I could, if I was to take a polyline here and another polyline here to here, and I could use those curves to split this image. So if I said objects to split, say that's the object, press enter, then I split it with these 2 curves here, and that just simply means that I've got these separate images that I could apply to the different seaplanes. Yeah, so I would perhaps send that one to my front seaplane. Yeah, so that's one way of doing it. Okay, I use this method a lot. If I want to quickly create an object, I'd go onto the internet and I'd find the object, find a section of it, and using Rhino's revolve commands, for example, it's a very quick way. Okay, so that's to show you that's perhaps the way that you could tackle this object. Okay. But as I say, we don't really have time to set those all up because I would be interested in placing them on specific layers so I have direct control over each of these images. Okay. Let me just, I've got a previous one here. It's all right. I haven't copied the images across. It's come from my laptop, so. Anyway, you can get an idea there. Look, those images there, you can see that I've applied them to 3 different seaplanes. Okay, so is that method new to anyone? Yes, yes.
Guys, hi, I'm Arthur. Same thing. I work with Simply Rhino. If you have any questions, you're also around.
Sorry?
So you can come and help you.
This. Oh, you don't have it. Okay. I don't want you to use this method. Yeah, sorry, Arthur. No, it's okay. Thank you. Yeah, no. I just wanted to just demonstrate, just to show you that this is a method, but it's not the method that I want to do tonight because it would just take us too long, and Arthur wouldn't have any time to speak. Okay. Okay, so let's start. I'm just going to. Okay, I'll just delete those. Now, we need some layer discipline here. So I'm just going to come to my layer panel here on the right-hand side, and I'm going to change that layer, and I'm going to call it construction. Okay. Now, the only bit of construction really that I'm going to create here is I'm just going to place a rectangle, okay, on the top seaplane, and it's going to represent the border of this top view here. Okay, so I know that the size of my rectangle is 135 by 96. Okay, so with my construction layer being the current layer, I double click on the word construction, okay, making it the current layer, meaning the object will be placed on that particular layer. I slide across to my rectangle command here on the vertical toolbar, choose the rectangle command, left click. It asks me in bold, first corner of rectangle. Now I'm not going to use the default method, I'm going to use the center method. Okay, so I'm going to click on the word center. Okay, and where it's asking for center of rectangle, I'm going to type in 0 and press enter. So it's going to place it at the very center of the model, the origin. Okay, shortcut to the origin is 0. Now, if I type in 135, that will be the length. Now the width is 96. There. Okay, so this is just going to act as a guide. Okay. I'll just say what I'm doing here is I'm going to build this curve here that's defining that top edge across the top here. Okay. So now I'm going to make sure that my object snaps are on. I know that I'm going to be interested in mid and near. So if I turn on my object snaps aren't visible. I'll come down, click on OSnap here. My object snap toolbar appears at the bottom. I'm going to make sure that near is on and mid is on. I'm going to use a control point curve. That's found either here, very top of the toolbar, or curve, freeform, control points. Okay, so execute that command. In bold, it asks me for start of curve. If I slide down to midway on this vertical part of the rectangle here, I'm going to start the curve round about here with a left click. Now, it's important actually that I find a near snap, because I wish to place the point directly above the point that I've just picked. So I choose a point here with a left click. Now I know that I need to come across from this midpoint to another midpoint in 7. Okay, it's important that when we build objects from freeform curves, it's essential that we use the minimum amount of control points. And I know from experience that 7 is a good number here to achieve this curve. So I'm going to pick a point here. I can pick the top here, here. So I've got there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then Control Z. I know that this point here needs to be on the vertical part. I need to snap to that point here. So near and then mid, left click. Press enter. Okay. It doesn't look too much like what I'm trying to achieve, but that's not important because we're going to adjust it now. Okay, we're going to use some of Rhino's nudge controls. We can also look at a curvature graph. In fact, I can actually I can lose that rectangle now. It's not of any interest to me. And let's just be a little bit more disciplined here, because this particular object should really be on a layer called curve. So I'm going to slide across to my layers panel here, and I'm going to choose another, call a layer here curve, and I select the curve. Okay. A quick way of moving that curve onto a different layer is by, there's many ways of doing this. This is just one way. If I right click on the word curve here, I slide down that list, I say change objects layer. Okay, so that's going to change layer, change color because it's now on the curve layer. Okay, now let's smooth out this curve. Now what's important when we're smoothing out this curve, so I select the curve, I press F10. I'm going to slide across here to my toolbar here, and I'm going to turn on my control points. Now, as I said, what's important is that this point here, its relationship in terms of the y direction doesn't change, but we can alter the other points. Now, one way of seeing how smooth this curve is by coming across here to analyze, curvature graph on. Okay, select objects for curvature graph, select the object, press enter. Now I'm going to need to play around with these settings here until the graph becomes visible. Oops, the density. Okay, now curvature graph. Okay, this is exaggerating the smoothness of this graph, of this curve rather. Now this gives me an idea of how smooth the curve is going to be. Now I select one single control point here, and I can use my nudge controls. My nudge controls are if I hold down the Alt key and I press one of the arrows here, and there. Okay, so I'm just going to have a play. If you look at the example you have on your sheet, you'll see it's taller at the kind of the left-hand side than it is on the other. So, okay. So you'll see that you're going to be able to get quite a nice smooth curve here. This is a say. Sorry? Which keys? Nudge controls, okay? So you have to select the control point, then you hold down, right, okay. Now, Windows select a control point or make a single, that's it, perfect. Yeah. Hold down the Alt key, yeah, and press an arrow, yeah? And what that does is, okay, these nudge controls, it's a combination of either Alt and an arrow or Alt plus Shift, Alt plus Control. They're either finer or grosser movements, okay? You're not familiar with your nudges. Yeah. Let me just show you where they're found, actually. Look, if I click on my cog here, and I'm going to, where are they? Where are your nudges? Modelling aids, nudge. Okay, so I've gone to modelling aids, and there, look, just under nudge, you'll see that's where the values, that's where those increments are found. And you can see that's, look, Alt plus arrow, Alt plus Control, Alt plus Shift. Okay? So let's just get back to getting this right. No. Okay. Try and get out of the habit of pressing F10. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to turn off the curvature graph. Mirror. I'm simply going to mirror this curve. I select the curve. I slide up to Transform, Mirror, and Start of Mirror Plane. We can use a shortcut here. I've got X-axis. I've drawn it running along the X-axis, so if I just click on X, that will just flip it around the other side. Okay. Now, I'm going to come to 4 views here. Either double click on the word top or right click on this icon to the left of the red car. Okay. Now, what I need to do is I need another curve to build the top surface here. What command do you think I'm heading towards here once I've built another curve? Loft, yeah? So I'm looking towards using the loft command here. But I need another curve. Now, very common way of kind of modelling here is to take an existing curve, take a copy of it, and make changes to it. Because then I'll be assured of the position of the control points. Okay, so I wish to make a copy of that curve and place it in the vertical orientation. Now there's different ways of doing that. Okay, we could use the gumball, or we could use the rotate, or we could use rotate 3D. Okay, let's have a look at the rotate 3D command. It's rotate with copy set to yes. Okay, within the rotation commands, we have that option of saying copy yes. So transform, rotate 3D. It asks me in bold, start of rotation axis. I need to make sure I'm finding these two endpoints here. So I need end object snap on from end to end. Now, if I move my cursor now into the right looking view, hold down the shift key, make a left click, and then rise up to the vertical. I hold down the shift key again and make another left click. Make sure that, see what's happening in the perspective there, because I need to go the other way, okay? I need it to be in the positive direction. Ah. Okay. Do as I say, not do as I do. What I didn't do there was, I didn't turn on the clickable option to yes. So let's just do that again. Rotation axis from end to end. And make sure copy is set to yes. And then bring it up to the vertical. Okay. So in taking a copy of those, of one of those curves, it means that, look, if I turn on the control points here, it means that all the control points will be lined, will be in line, so therefore assuring us of a smooth surface. So now I wish to alter the height of this new curve that I've just created. I'm going to use my scale 1D command in order to do that. So I'm in the front view here, just expand that. I come up to transform, scale, 1D, origin point. I find an end object snap here, scale factor or reference point. If I slide up in the positive Y direction here, hold down the shift key and make a left click, I can move my cursor downwards, and I'm just changing the scale of this object in one direction. Come down to about this point here. Left click, 4 views. Okay? Shall I do that again? You're okay. Again. Was that, do it again? Yes? Okay. Control Z. Right. So I wish to change the scale of this object in one direction. I select the curve. I come up to transform, scale, 1D, origin, hold down the shift key. What does holding down the shift key do? Yes, orthogonal, okay? It constrains me. It's a constraint. So it's a shortcut to coming down and turning on ortho, okay? So hold down the shift key, left click, and then just define a height round about here. Okay, so now I've got my 3 curves that will define my surface. So I can use my loft command now. Okay. So, loft. It's a surface creation command, so it's found under surface here, or just simply type in loft. Second one down from the top, loft. Select curves to loft. Now, loft is a bit sensitive, okay? You need to select the curves in order and at a particular end as well. So 1, 2, 3, press enter. I've got the loft dialog box appear, and I'm just going to accept those default settings there, normal and do not simplify. Press enter. And let's just have a look at that in a shaded mode. Okay, so it's a nice smooth surface here. Okay, so that's the top part of our trackball. Yeah. Yeah, sure, yeah, of course. Okay, I'll just do that again. Okay, so let's expand the perspective. surface, loft. Select curves to loft. 1, 2, 3. Press enter and accept the default settings. Just hide that. Can I just say, if I just go to the top view here, if you're finding that your particular surface has got a bit of an angular, bit of a sharp end rather than a smooth one that I've created, why would that be? Sorry? No. No. What is it? What is it that's determining this surface? It's the curve. Yeah. So, and what's important here, to get this smooth part here, is, look, if I turn on my control points here, I have 3 control points all in a row. They're all on the same line. That's why I have that smooth end. Okay? If your second control points here are slightly in, you're not going to get that smoothness. Okay? It actually creates a tangent at that point. So that's why you're getting a sharp end, if that's what you're seeing. Okay? Surface, loft. 1, 2, 3. Enter, enter. And what we're seeing here is loft working with open curves. Yeah, we have 3 open curves. Yeah, just to remind you, you don't need to do this, but just to show you how else loft works. Loft also works with closed curves. Yeah. If I was to loft these 2 closed curves here, surface, loft, okay, it would create a surface between those 2 closed curves, okay? So our example, we have opened, that's an example of closed. Okay, so let's move on. Now, let's go to 4 views here. And let's expand the front view. Now, just have a little look at the PDF here. And can you see this curve here? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an arc command. And I'm going to use that arc, that curve, to trim my new surface here. So in the front view here, I'm going to slide up to curve, arc, here. Start, end, direction. Okay, there's a few curves that we could, arcs we could use here, but let's use start, end, direction. So I execute start, end, direction. Slide over to, say, round about here. Make a left click to define the start of the arc. Slide across to the other side here. Holding down the shift key. Make a left click. Now look, the direction. You can see, look, Rhino's previewing that arc for me. And say round about here. What's important here is that my arc doesn't go below. Okay, it needs to be, the trim needs to take place up above the lower edge of that surface. So it needs to be above slightly there. If I select the arc, I can turn on my control points and I can make some changes. Okay, so remember your nudge controls here. You can make some changes. Perhaps if I even pull this across a bit as well. Okay, so once my arc's in place, I can use that as a trimming or a cutting object. Okay, so I'm in the front view. I slide across to my vertical toolbar here, or just simply type in trim, execute that. Cutting object is the curve. Press enter when done. Select object to trim. Click on the edge. Click on the part of the object that you want to. It's giving me a selection menu here. It's the surface that I'm interested in. And let's just have a look in the perspective here, so you see what I've done here. Okay. Okay. Now, what next? If we go back to the trackball here, you can see it's got a flat bottom here. Okay, so let's think about building that flat bottom. If we go to the top view, and let's just hide that surface for a moment, and I select my two lower curves here, two curves that are defining the base, and I join them, okay, using the jigsaw puzzle, or just type in JO, short for join. Now, I wish to create a curve duplicates this particular curve, but slightly smaller. Okay, so I have a choice. I could use offset, or I could use scale. I prefer to use scale. Okay, anyone? Do you know why? Okay, when you use an offset, especially in this particular case, it's going to create a curve with many, many control points. Okay, based on the tolerance of the file. So you're better off with by scaling it. Okay, now I love gumball. Okay, I like to use the gumball whenever I can.
Yeah. Once we turn the whole loft, isn't that making it smaller than 135 millimeters?
Yeah, I'm not really following.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just did that as a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be here too long if we were trying to. Yeah, but you're correct. Yes. Right. I tend to use the gumball whenever I can. Okay, and this is the manipulator widget that we see here, the red and the green arrow. And I'm going to use this particular gumball in order to create a scale copy of this object. Now, with my gumball on, you can see it's in bold at the bottom here. If I drag the red square to the left, look what Rhino does. Okay, that's scaling 1D. Okay, we want 2D scaling. Okay, now we also wish to make a copy. Now look what it says in the command line. It says tap Alt to make a duplicate. So I tap the Alt, plus symbol appears. Okay, whilst dragging that red square. Now 1D scaling. I need to move up to 2D scaling. Anyone? What do I do? Shift. Yes, shift. And then release. And then I've got a copy. Okay, do you want me to do that again? Yeah? Right, Control Z. Join your two curves. You need a single curve, one closed curve. Okay. Now, drag the red square, 1D scaling. Okay. Tap the Alt key as it tells you to in the command line. Hold down the Shift key. See, it jumps between 1D and 2D by holding down the Shift key. And release. Okay. You could use the transform scale 2D command as well. I'm just using gumball. Okay. I like to demonstrate gumball. I like people to try and use gumball. Yeah. Okay. So we're all right with that. If right, so now I've got a curve. What could you say about that curve? How would you describe that curve? What is that curve? Planar, yeah? It's a very common word that we use. It means flat. When something's flat, what's the number one command? Once we have a closed curve and it's planar, what's the number one command that we use to create a surface? Sorry? Number one command for creating? Go on. Yes. Well, yeah, the command is found here. Surface, planar curves. Okay. There. Right. Now, with that surface, well, I select the surface, and I'm just going to drag it down a touch, round about here. Okay. Now, I'm going to right click on my light bulb here because I've got my That's interesting. I must have done an undo. My, right, for some reason my surface, I thought I trimmed that. Did I not trim that? Trim, select the curve, press enter. Okay, it's quite easy to make duplicates in Rhino. Right, so what do we want to do now? We need to build this part of the mouse between these two edges here. Any idea? Any idea? How could I build a surface between these two edges here? I'm missing something, okay? A loft, okay, could possibly be a loft. Sorry? A blend, yes, a blend. But I'd like to keep these edges sharp, actually. I'm going to use a sweep, okay? I can use a sweep 2 rails, but what I'm missing here is a curve. I need a curve from, you don't need to do this, but I'm just going to place a couple of point objects just so that you can, there, those 2 point objects. Oh, they're not very big, really. You can't really see them, but I'm going to draw a curve from here, from end point to end point. Okay. And I'm going to use my surface, sweep 2 rails. I select one edge, another edge. Now it's asking me for a cross section. I select this curve, press enter, and just accept those default settings. Okay, do you want me to do that again? Yes? Yeah? Okay. Right, so I need to draw a curve, okay, a line from this point here to this point here. And you're going to be able to, you can find those with end object snaps. So I use my polyline command here. I go from end to end. And surface, sweep 2 rails is 1, 2. Cross section, curve, press enter, and OK. Okay. Now, if we go back to my trackball here, looks like I've got some fillets here, okay? I've got 2 edges and I wish to fillet both of those, okay? Now, what do I need to do prior to running the solid fillet edge command? Yes, exactly, yeah? Because the solid fillet edge command is going to look for edges, in other words, surfaces that are joined. So, I select my 3 here, and I join them, JO. And now, fillet. Now, the fillet is found under the solid command here. So I slide up to solid, fillet edge, fillet edge. It asks me for edges to fillet. I pick this one here, and I'm going to choose, say, let's see what 3 looks like. Press enter. So I'm changing the size of the fillet to 3. Press enter when done. It's showing me actually it's previewing 1 here. Okay, that's because I chose the edge prior to changing the fillet. That just simply means that I need to look for the word set all. And you'll see there's a default value there of 3. And if I press enter, you'll see that the previewed value there has changed to 3. So press enter. Okay, I'll accept that. And this lower edge here. So press enter to repeat the previous command. And I'm going to change the radius to say 2, enter, and click on this lower edge here. And fillet that lower edge. Note that we've got this nice little use previous edge selection. Just increasing that a bit. Okay, so now Go to 4 views. Okay, so now we have the body of the trackball. Okay, let's do the easy part first of all, the sphere. Yeah, we can place the sphere, slide up to solid, sphere, center radius, and in the front view here, just pick a point round about here, and say here. And using my gumball here, see the plane indicator? Can you see this box? If I expand the front view, this is called the plane indicator. It just means that it's fixing. If I can drag this object, in fact, it's just the same as having the gumball off and just dragging the object like so. So just say round about here. Okay, note the angle of the seam there. So now let's have a think about these elliptical buttons that we wish to create here. Look at them in the plan view here. I'm going to build these by creating some ellipses down on the C-plane below, rotate them, then extrude them. And then we'll look at using some splits and some booleans. So actually, before we move on, let's create this pocket to house this this sphere here. So, which Boolean command will that be? Yeah. What's that called? Which one is that in the list? Which one? Under the solid command, here's all the Booleans. Yeah, Boolean is an automation. Yeah. So we've got union, difference, intersection, Boolean two objects. Let's use the Boolean two objects. It's a good kind of, it gives us a chance to iterate through possibilities. So I choose Boolean two objects. It asks me to select two objects to Boolean. I select one and the other. Then in the command line it asks me click to iterate through Boolean results, press enter to accept. So if I make a series of left clicks, it reports to me in the command line as well. Look, it tells me I've got an intersection, I've got an A minus B, which is the same as using, it's as Rhino describes it within a command, difference. Which is it the one that I want? I think, it's not this one. Okay, let's pull down the, okay, B minus A. That's the one, isn't it? So if I just, oh, it's not. Okay. Let me just run that again. Solid Boolean two objects. The problem is that I needed to be careful with in this particular case, I want delete input actually set to no. So I need to change that if I'm using the Boolean two objects command. So I'll start again, yeah? So I slide up to solid Boolean two objects. Make sure delete input says no, okay? Because we want to keep the sphere. So there's one object, there's the other. Series of left clicks, and that one is an inverse selection. That's a union. That's inverse selection. That must be, now that's B minus A. Oh my goodness, I'm not really having much success here. Okay, Control Z. Okay, rather than going that way, I'm just going to go straight into solid difference. To subtract from is the body. Press enter. To subtract with, delete input, no. To subtract with is the sphere. press enter. And if I just hide that, that's it, that's done. Okay. I didn't use the Boolean two objects, I used the Boolean difference. Okay, I'll do that one more time if you wish. Yes? Yes? Okay. So I have two objects. Okay. Solid, difference. To subtract from. It's asking me which object do I wish to subtract from, and that is this is the body, so I choose that part of the object. I press enter. Make sure delete input is set to no. To subtract with, which is the sphere. Choose the sphere, press enter. That's it. Hide that part just to see that you've created that within the object. Okay, so now let's build the two elliptical buttons. Let's go to 4 views. And I choose the ellipse command. Okay, it's a curve command. We're going to create a curve. Click on ellipse, ellipse center. So I choose a point round about here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'll just make that wireframe. Let's just run the ellipse command again. Pick a point round about, say, here. It's asking me for the end of the first axis. Choose a point here and another point, say, there. Okay, so if I just select that ellipse, you'll see that I've just placed an ellipse down on the C-plane. Okay, I drew it in the top view. Ellipse here. Place my cursor over it, yeah? Sorry? From center. Yeah, I use the default method. So I just clicked on ellipse, and that's the default method that you have for drawing an ellipse. Okay. Now, in order to create an object, these two elliptical buttons, first thing I need to do is perhaps rotate this. In fact, I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. I can do that with my gumball here by dragging this red box here, hold down the shift key, okay, to just make it a touch larger. And now in the right looking view here, can you see the red arc here with my ellipse selected? I'm just going to drag that up a touch, just so that I'm just orientating it so that it's kind of more or less going to pass sort of perpendicular through that surface. So say round about here. I'll just expand the right view so you can see there, look. So there's my ellipse here. I'm just going to drag that just a touch. And now I'm going to use my extrude command. Okay, I'm going to extrude this curve into a solid. So let's go to 4 views. Let's see this in 4 views. Slide up to solid, extrude planar curve straight. Okay, I'll just leave it on the screen for a moment. So solid, extrude planar curve straight. We're going to move from a curve to a solid. And it just needs to pass through the top surface. There. Okay. You all right? Do you want me to do that again? That's okay. Yeah, I rotated the curve. Okay, I'll do that again. 4 views. Okay, just. Yep, so I've got my curve here sitting on the C-plane, correct? Yeah. In the right-looking view here, see the blue arc? I've got my gumball on. I place my cursor on the blue arc, and I just simply drag it. That rotates the... the gumball allows me to copy, move, rotate, extrude. You can do many, there's many commands that you can find when you're using the gumball. So there, so it's now orientated towards the sort of more or less perpendicular to the surface. So once I've carried out my extrusion, I'll go to solid, extrude planar curve straight, and now just so it passes through that, look at it in the right looking view here. So solid, extrude planar curve straight through that top surface there. Now, just as we've done already, we've created a little pocket here for our sphere. Okay, you can see the pocket there. Now, we wish to do the same here for this ellipse. But not only that, I want the top of that ellipse to be perfectly smooth with the top of this trackball. So how can we do that? First of all, let's just create a pocket on one side. Okay. Now, we can do that by selecting the extrusion here and just simply mirroring it, okay, to the other side. Transform, mirror, start of mirror plane. What can I use? What's the quick way of placing that on the other side? Look at my clickable options. X-axis, yeah? We've drawn it along the x-axis, so let's use that. So there. Now, I wish to create a pocket. So I come up to solid difference. Let's use the solid difference command. It asks me, what is it that you wish to subtract from? I wish to create a pocket in the body, in the body of this trackball. So I choose the trackball. Okay, that's what we're subtracting from. Press enter. To subtract with, that's what we're subtracting with. This time, actually, we're going to delete the input, which means that this extrusion will disappear. Okay, so we have the pocket now just on one side. Okay. Now, we wish to create this button, yeah, with that top that's perfectly smooth, matching the smoothness of the body of the trackball. So, how could we do that? How could we achieve that? Trim it. Yeah, trim. Yes. Yes, trim. Okay, that would leave us with. Okay, trim would work. Okay, let's just run with that. Let's trim what with you would trim one with the other. Yeah, so you trim. Actually, rather than doing that, what I'm going to do is. How about what would happen if I split? If I was to split. If I was to say split what object? If I said split this object with this object. Okay, let's just hide this for a moment. This part here. And just see what we've got here. Okay, maybe if I go to ghosted view. Okay, you can see, look, if I just move that. Okay, so that object has been split with the surface of the body of the trackball. Okay, so just bring that back. Now, so what I need though is I need the top of this extrusion to match. How about if I split the other way around now as well? How about if I said split, if I split this object with this object? Okay. Now, if I was to lose this part now, and if I was just to hide the body, that would leave me, look, I've got my, what am I to do now? What is it that I need to do with this? I need to join it. Yes? So I join these two together. JO. Okay. Okay, do you want me to go backwards a bit? Yes? Yeah. Okay. What I basically did here was split one with the other and then the other with the other. Okay. So what I did was I ran the split command. I said split this object with this object. Then I said split this object with this object. Okay. Now if I delete this part here, it means that I've got this part and this part that I can join together. And if I just leave those present, you'll see, yeah, because I know that I've taken that from that top surface. I know that it's a duplicate of that surface, so it's going to match. It's going to be a perfect smooth. So let's bring everything back. Now, let's go back to, but of course, if I hide this, what is it that I see here? You know, it reveals to us something about that we know about what Rhino is. Rhino is not a solid modeler, it's a surface modeler. Okay, so the moment we make a change to a solid like this, it's going to reveal to us, if we look in the properties here, it's going to tell us that we've got an open polysurface. Okay, because I've used that surface, haven't I? I've taken that surface to create the top of that extrusion. So what is it that I need to do now? I need to close this object. Okay, so what's the number one command for closing an object, for closing an opening like this? How would you close that? Cap. Full name for cap is cap planar holes. Okay, meaning that cap is only going to work with a planar opening. It's not a planar opening. Yeah, it's not a flat opening. So any other way? The clue is that this is a trim. We've used trim. Well, we used split, but this is a trimmed surface. It's a trimmed opening. Place your cursor over the trim button. What does a right click do? Yes, it does, but what I'm saying is if you place your cursor over the trim button here, it shows you that a right click on that is a command called untrim. Okay, that's the number one command that you want to use because it's going to create a, you know, it's going to just close that object perfectly. So right click, close that opening. Now, all we need to do now is bring that object back, and what do we need to do? We need to mirror it first of all because we need it to fill this pocket that we've created here. So transform, mirror, x-axis, and what do we need to do here? I've got this object here and I've got this object. What's the command? I need to create a pocket. How did I create a pocket on the other side? Boolean difference. Yeah, so we use the Boolean difference command. So solid difference, to subtract from is the body, press enter, to subtract with, delete input, no, press enter. Let's hide those parts and just fillet those edges. Solid, fillet edge, fillet edge. Let's change that to select all, enter, enter. Bring everything back. Just adding a bit of colour that we won't see until we're actually looking in a rendered view. So this is a rendered view. Yeah, Rhino's got a built-in renderer. You see, I'm seeing the curves in my view here. It's a rendered view. The display here. If I click on my display here, I can turn off my curves. Right. Yes.
Yeah, I reached up to this point and then so I
Oh, okay.
I extended.
Well. Yeah, I split split this object with this object, this object with this object.
But I didn't do like, I think you did something else, you copied. I drew the ellipse,
Yes.
then I rotated, and then I extruded. That was the point
Yes.
where I stopped.
Yes. Then I split this object with this one, and that one, that one.
No, sorry, what
Yeah.
I'm saying is I drew the ellipse,
Yeah, yeah.
then I extruded,
Yes.
and then at that point I stopped. I didn't do anything else because I got lost.
Okay.
So
Right.
what do I need to do after that?
Split.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, well, I created a pocket first on the other side. Okay. So, you know, you've got two there. That's fine. So maybe you want to create a pocket using the Boolean difference command. So
Yep.
Boolean difference.
Yeah.
Subtract from. Choose the body. This one here.
Yep.
Press enter. Select the object. Select that one. And make sure delete input is set to. It doesn't matter. Just press enter. If it's still there, you can just delete it. Right. Select that and just delete it.
Yep.
Great. Now, I created a pocket and then I worked on the other side, okay?
Oh.
Created, then I because then I created the object that you want to sit within that pocket. Yeah?
Oh, I see.
See the colors.
So what I do
The
is
colours,
Yeah.
right?
do is split again.
Yeah. I've just been asked about the colours. Yep. Rhino's got a built-in renderer. So what I did was, first of all, right-click, make sure you're looking at a rendered view. Yeah? And then select the object here, slide across to Properties, and there'll be the second button along there. There's a tube of paint material. And if you click on that, you then need to go to Assign Material By and choose Object. I know, I'm finishing. Where's Arthur? Oh, yeah. Okay, no worries. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? How did you find that? Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of. It's not. Obviously, it's not the only way of doing it. Sorry.
I've trimmed them. I'm just struggling to know what the next step is in terms of writing to select the surface and create a pocket.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, create a pocket. If that's a, what is that? Okay, that's. Ooh, what's going on here?
I'm not sure. That's the
Shaded, ghosted. Looks like you have kind of. Ah, right. Okay, what's that?
fully surface.
Right, excellent. Right, all you need to do is run the Boolean difference command, yeah?
Oh, I see,
So,
right.
solid, difference, that's what you want to subtract from, that's what you're going to subtract with. Make sure delete input is set to, yes is okay. And there, let's have a look at shaded. Okay, something's amiss here. Okay, I think I will. Arthur's,
No worries, it's
Arthur's
fine.
going to.
It's okay.
Let me just. Okay. If you want me to, I will sort that for you if you wish.
No, it's
Okay.
fine, no worries.
You're right. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. Being wicked. I need to get at some point.
Okay.
Hey, yeah. That's good actually.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. Can you show me in the shaded view? Have you got the there it is. So you've got the object here. Right, just okay. Is there? Have you created? What, is there a pocket in there?
Well, I split the main one
Yeah.
with the tube that we created.
Yeah.
Then I split it the other way.
Okay.
And then I untrimmed. So I had a pocket on the other side.
Okay. So you got the pocket ready. Okay. And go back round the other way now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is that that's the object. Perfect. Now all you need to do is to first of all you could mirror that so it appears on the other side. Transform mirror. Perfect. Yeah. Now if you x-axis, if you've drawn it along the x-axis, yeah, click on. Oh, that there. Okay, where's the x-axis here? Oh, how come it didn't flip over the other side? Try again. Object to mirror. That's it. Press enter. Now type x, enter.
You offset the original surface. So it creates this.
Why did you, can you say, explain again why did you go through that?
Yeah, yeah, okay. That's funny. I couldn't.
Yeah, it usually highlights it, doesn't it?
Okay, so you've got one in there now. Okay, so that's done. Now all you need to do is create the pocket this side.
So just do the same thing.
Yes. Solid Boolean difference.
Difference, yeah.
Choose to subtract from is the trackball, is the body. So choose the large. Click on an isocurve there. Perfect. Press enter. To subtract with, choose your. That's it. Press enter. Yeah. Delete input should have said no. Yeah. Because you wanted to retain it.
From, okay. Then now join back the, join back the, all the